Today's lesson is on dividing positive and negative fractions. And before we get into that, we'll do a review of dividing and dividing fractions in general, and then we'll get into the positives and negatives. So first off, we want to draw some diagrams to represent these quotients. You guys remember quotients are what we get when we divide. And we want to do the diagram so we actually know what's going on when we're dividing. In this case, we've got 8 divided by 2. So I'm going to start by drawing 8 circles here, 8 little things. And now I want to divide them by 2. There's 2 ways we can do this. 8 divided by 2, we can think about dividing into groups of 2 is one way. So there's a group of 2, group of 2, group of 2, group of 2. So of course 8 divided by 2 is 4. The other way we can do it, there's my 8 things. Dividing by 2, I can divide it into 2 equal groups. And of course we end up with 4 in each group, so our answer is 4. So there's the 2 ways we can represent dividing with a diagram. When it comes to dividing using fractions, we're going to decide which one is going to be the easiest to think about. We don't need to do both. Okay, so let's have a look at the next one here. 3 divided by a half. Sorry, that's not a very good half. Kind of drew 12 and then drew a line through it. But either way, that's 3 divided by a half. Okay, so same as last time, I'm going to start out with 3 things. 3 pizzas, basically. I'm going to make these ones bigger. Okay, and now we need to decide which of these 2 we want to think about. So we're either going to divide it into, so up here we divided it into groups of 2, or we divided it into 2 groups, 2 equal groups. Here we can either divide it into groups of a half, or we can divide 3 into half a group. Groups of a half is the easiest to think about. Like if you think about up here, we can think about this as we've got 8 mini pizzas, 2 per person. How many can we feed? Well, that's one person's worth, one person's worth. So we can feed 4 people, 8 pizzas, 2 each. Here we've got 3 pizzas, not mini pizzas, but regular pizzas. And we want half per person. So we're going to divide it into groups of half. Each group of half is for one person. So there's a group with a half in it. 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 And there's a group with a half in it. So not surprisingly, if I have 3 pizzas, half a pizza per person, I can feed 6 people. 3 divided into groups of a half is 6, or 3 divided by a half is 6. Okay, let's have a look at the next one. We've got 1 1/2 divided by a half. Okay, so this one's very similar to B, except for instead of starting out with 3, I'm going to start out with 1 1/2. Oops, wrong pen. So there's my 1 pizza, and there's my half pizza. And again, 1 1/2 divided by a half. I'm going to divide this into groups of a half. So there's a group with a half, there's a group with a half, there's a group with a half. So if I've got 1 1/2 pizzas, half a pizza per person, I can feed 3 people. 1 1/2 divided by a half is 3. Okay, just got a couple more of these with the diagram. D, I've got 1 1/2 divided by a quarter. So again, I'm going to start out with a pizza and a half. And this time, instead of half a pizza per person like I had up here, I've got a quarter of a pizza per person. So there's my quarter of a pizza in that group, quarter in that group, quarter in that group, and quarter in that group. And then this half is going to have 2 quarters in it. There we go. So I've got red circles around 1 person's worth of pizza. So that means I can feed 6 people. So 1 1/2 divided into groups of a quarter, we get 6 groups. Okay, and one more of these. We've got 1 1/4 divided by 1/2. So this time I've got a pizza and 1/4. And I want to figure out how many people I can feed if it's half a pizza per person. Well, there's half a pizza for somebody. There's half a pizza for somebody. And this person's going to get kind of shorted. They're only going to get basically half a portion. So to show that that's half a portion, I'm going to draw a dotted line here to kind of show that this is half of that group. So if I've got a pizza and 1/4 and I want half a pizza per person, I can basically only make 2 1/2 portions. I don't want to say I can feed 2 1/2 people because there's no such thing as half a person, but basically I've got 2 1/2 portions. Okay, you guys probably last year didn't do these diagrams. What you probably did do is figure out how to get the answers. The reason why I wanted to do these diagrams is so you guys know what's going on when you get the answers. You guys probably remember from last year that 3 divided by 1/2, we can get the same answer by going 3 times 2/1. So we change this to multiplication and we flip the second fraction. Gives us 6. Notice this doesn't tell us what's going on at all. It just gets us the answer, which is obviously useful, but it's not as useful if we don't know what's going on. So we need to know we've got 3 pizzas, half a pizza per person is 6 pizzas, and then here's the easy way to figure out that it's actually 6 pizzas. This guy, 1 1/2 divided by 1/2, well, we're going to have to multiply, so I'm going to change 1 1/2 into 3/2, and that's going to be times 2/1 equals 6/2, which is 3. Okay, this one, 1 1/2 is 3/2 times 4/1. That's going to be 12/2, which is 6. So again, notice this is how we get the answer, but it doesn't help us think about it, right? We need to remember we've got a pizza and 1/2, 1/4 of a pizza per person. We can feed 6 people. Okay, and last one, 1 1/4 is 5/4 times 2/1. That's going to be 10/4, which is 5/2, which is of course 2 1/2. Okay, so let's do some of these without the diagrams. Example 2, find the quotients. And again, quotients just means answer when we divide. Okay, so here's our first one. 1/3 divided by 3/4. And again, we can think about this as we've got 1/3 of a pizza, and each person gets 3/4 of a pizza. Pretty weird situation, so we need to basically figure out how many portions we have. Okay, and you remember we can do this, equals the line above. We can find the answer by going times 4/3. And that's going to be 1 times 4/3 times 3, so it's going to be 4/9. So we're going to be able to have 4/9 of a portion. Okay, let's have a look at the next one. B. We've got 6/5 divided by 10/3. I can get the same answer by going 6/5 times 3/10. Okay, and now to keep the numbers small, I'm going to write this as 6 times 3 over 5 times 10. And 6/10 is the same as 3/5. And that's all I can do to simplify that. So 3 times 3 is 9, over 5 times 5 is 25. Okay, just a couple more of these. I got C, I've got negative 1 1/5 divided by negative 3 over 5. Okay, we need to change this into an improper fraction, and we might as well change that to multiplication at the same time. So that's going to be negative 6 over 5 times negative 5 over 3. Notice with the negative fractions, I can put the negative on the top or the bottom. I prefer to keep it on the top because it just makes more sense. Okay, and that equals the line above, equals the line above. Negative 6 times negative 5 over 5 times 3 to keep the numbers small. Well, negative 5 over 5 is the same as negative 1 over 1. Negative 6 over 3 is the same as negative 2 over 1. So I've got negative 2 times 1 is 2 over 1. So that's 2 over 1, or just 2. Oops. You guys couldn't see the end there. Let me push that up there. So notice we went negative 6 over 3 is the same as negative 2 over 1. And negative 5 over 1 is the same as negative 1 over 1. Okay, one more. D negative 3.5 divided by 2 3/4. And because these are both mixed numbers, let's change them to improper first before we change it to multiplying. We don't want to try to do too many steps at the same time. That's a really good way to make mistakes. So negative 3.5 is the same as negative 7 over 2. And we've still got division, and that's divided by 11 over 4. Okay, and now we know we can get the same answer by going negative 7 over 2 times 4 over 11. Keep the numbers small. Let's write this out like this first and see if we can reduce it all. The only thing I see is that 4 over 2 is the same as 2 over 1. But that still kept the numbers small for us. So that's going to be negative 14 over 11 then. And for practice, change that to a mixed number. That's going to be negative 1 and 3 over 11. Okay, you guys can do your assignment now.